Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to address one of the major challenges that many of us face when it comes to managing stress and anxiety, the constant cycle of what-if scenarios and catastrophizing thoughts. Have you ever found yourself thinking, what if everything goes wrong? Or, what if they're lying to me? These thoughts can feel overwhelming and can lead to unnecessary anxiety. If you've ever been caught in this mental loop where your mind keeps creating worst-case scenarios, you know just how exhausting it can be. It seems like you're constantly worrying about things that may never even happen. So, how do we handle these types of thoughts? In this video, I'll share how mindfulness, as taught in Buddhism, can help us challenge these distorted thoughts and bring our minds back to the present. Through mindful practices, we can break free from this cycle and create more peace and clarity in our lives. We've all been there. You're having a peaceful moment, and suddenly an intrusive thought arises. What if something bad happens? What if I fail? What if everyone is against me? These what-if scenarios are a common source of anxiety, and our minds can become stuck in them for long periods. It feels like your thoughts are spiraling out of control, creating a constant state of fear and stress. Catastrophizing is a cognitive distortion that makes us believe the worst will happen, even when the situation doesn't warrant such thinking. We imagine these extreme outcomes in our minds, which can be incredibly draining and lead to feelings of powerlessness. But the truth is, most of the time, the things we fear never actually happen. Our minds are incredibly good at creating these worst-case scenarios, but they aren't always grounded in reality. This is why it's so important to challenge these thoughts and stop allowing them to take over. In Buddhism, there is a practice called mindfulness, or sati, that teaches us how to bring our minds back to the present moment. Mindfulness allows us to observe our thoughts without getting caught up in them. It's about recognizing thoughts for what they are, temporary mental events that come and go, and not allowing them to control us. When you practice mindfulness, you train your mind to observe thoughts without judgment. Instead of reacting to a what-if scenario with fear and anxiety, mindfulness helps you recognize it for what it is, just a thought, not an inevitable truth. Buddhism teaches us that samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, is marked by suffering. Our attachment to thoughts, fears, and desires only deepens our suffering. Mindfulness is the tool we can use to detach from these thoughts and realize that they don't define us. They are impermanent, and we have the power to choose how we respond to them. The key practice in mindfulness is to bring our awareness back to the present moment. When we're lost in catastrophizing, we're living in a future that hasn't happened yet. Mindfulness helps us reconnect with what's real and immediate, allowing us to take back control of our thoughts. The first thing we need to do when dealing with what-if scenarios is to catch them. In the heat of the moment, it can be hard to notice when your mind starts spiraling into anxiety, but the first step is awareness. Once you recognize that you're entering a cycle of negative thinking, you can begin to challenge it. Ask yourself questions like, is this thought based on reality? What evidence do I have that this worst-case scenario will happen? What is the worst thing that could happen, and how would I handle it? This process of challenging your thoughts helps you break free from the grip of catastrophizing and allows you to approach the situation with a more grounded perspective. Let me share a story of Sarah, a young woman who frequently found herself trapped in these what-if scenarios. Every time she had to give a presentation at work, she would think, what if I forget everything? What if I make a fool of myself? What if they think I'm incompetent? These thoughts made her feel paralyzed with fear. But Sarah decided to try mindfulness. She started recognizing when these thoughts would appear and began to challenge them. Instead of letting her mind spiral, she asked herself, what's the reality? Have I successfully presented before? What's the evidence that I will fail? By recognizing and challenging her thoughts, Sarah was able to approach her presentations with more confidence and less anxiety. Once you've challenged your thoughts, the next step is to understand what is within your control. In life, there are things we can change, and there are things that are beyond our control. It's essential to distinguish between the two. If a thought arises that you can't control, like, what if I fail in the future? Remind yourself that you can't predict the future. The only thing you have control over is your actions in the present moment. Instead of worrying about what could go wrong, focus on what you can do right now to make things better. Another important Buddhist practice to help with anxiety is mindful breathing. When we're caught in what-if scenarios, our bodies and minds become tense, and our breathing becomes shallow. By practicing mindful breathing, you can calm your body and mind, easing your stress and anxiety. Mindful breathing is simple. Focus on your breath, breathing in slowly and deeply through your nose, and exhaling gently through your mouth. By focusing on your breath, you bring yourself back to the present moment, breaking the cycle of catastrophizing and fear. An interesting method that I've found helpful, and although not directly mentioned in Buddhism, is to set a time to worry. When you catch yourself spiraling into anxiety, tell yourself, I'll set aside time later today to worry about this. Then, later in the day, sit down, reflect, and allow yourself to fully experience the worry. The key is that during the rest of your day, you focus on the present. In conclusion, catastrophizing thoughts and what-if scenarios are common, but they don't have to control your life. By practicing mindfulness, challenging your thoughts, and focusing on what's within your control, you can break free from this cycle and live with greater peace and clarity. Remember, anxiety often arises from a distorted view of reality. By practicing mindfulness and using techniques like mindful breathing and setting time to worry, you can shift your perspective and reduce stress. Keep practicing these techniques, and you'll find that your mind becomes more peaceful and calm. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all peace and clarity. Namaste.